December 1st, 1952, New York Daily News ran this headline, front page story, XGI becomes blonde beauty. So the story is referring to Christine Jorgensen, who is commonly known as the first person in the United States to undergo sex reassignment surgery.
Okay.
Jorgensen served in the Army during World War II, and after they had served in the Army, they began looking at basically what was going on in Europe with surgery related to sex and gender. And as they traveled, they began to learn more about it and ended up in Copenhagen, Denmark, receiving the reassignment surgery, and then came back to the United States and really became an icon early on. She took estrogen as well early on, which was not commonly done at that point.
Yeah.
And part of that was because she had a friend whose husband was associated with the Manhattan Medical and Dental Assistance School and was able to access some things that just weren't normal treatment habits at that time, and really set a stage for what this whole field of helping with gender euphoria might look like in the medical profession.
In the U.S. specifically, I have to
in the U.S. specifically, we were behind.
I've done a lot of research in this. It actually most likely started in Germany. So Denmark is fascinating. That I think that 1950s is kind of still fairly late to the whole kind of history of it. But that's fascinating that it was in Denmark and not in Germany, where I would have imagined that they would have had a lot more experience in science. Although I suppose after World War II. I just remembered.
You just mentioned the reason out loud.
I just remembered that this is after World War II.
That's all right. It's so Denmark is probably where some of those German surgeons ended up in order to provide this.
Fun fact, the first book that is officially about transgender individuals was the focus of Nazi book burnings during World War II, because it was breaking the norms of what the Nazis wanted, which was cis, straight, het, Aryan people.
Yes. So she went on to become a model, an actress, and was becoming somebody who was famous and well-known. She had a nightclub act where she sang several songs, including I Enjoy Being a Girl, that she wrote, and in which she would quickly change into a Wonder Woman costume.
Hell yeah. That's a hard costume to quick change to as well.
I wonder if it's underneath
something,
might be underneath, and then you just kind of burst forth out of whatever you're wearing.
Like a Superman kind of deal.
The last thing I'll do is just a quick quote from her autobiography, and that says that she really wanted to be a model for other, and of course she uses the word transsexuals for decades. That was the word in her autobiography that she used. She was a tireless lecturer on the subject of transsexuality, pleading for understanding from the public that all too often wanted to see transsexuals as freaks or perverts. Ms. Jorgensen's poise, charm, and wit won the hearts of millions. However, over time, the press was much less fascinated by her and started to scrutinize her more harshly, because misogyny in our country tends to be the lead, leading to she was no longer being really covered in the press, but media kept asking her to pose nude for their publications.
Listen, hey, media, on a quiet time now. Stop sexualizing trans people. We are not a fucking kink machine or anything like that. Like, we are people. We have identities, and our identity is not something for you to hypersexualize or fantasize about. Just need to get that out there.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, Christine Jorgensen, for being one of those thought leaders and paving the way.
Yeah. And good job, Denmark. I'm proud
of you. Good job, Denmark.
Yeah. I'm Anna, a transgender person.
And I'm Cam, your dad.
And this is The Transgender, a podcast chronicling my transition.
In a cisgender man learning how to support it. So today on the podcast, we are really excited to have Lexi, who is Instagram active is really how I know about Lexi. I've been following Lexi's Instagram for many years now, and had messaged her and said, your content's really important to me as I'm trying to learn how to be more supportive of the trans community and be more supportive of my daughters. So thank you, Lexi, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I like it. This is fantastic. I've got a great energy about this right now. It feels really great. Thank you.
Yay.
We usually start with the question of, tell us about yourself and everything that is you. So, we'd love to just know a little bit about your background and your transition journey.
Well, I grew up I spent most of my time growing up in a little town in northwest Iowa. Very conservative, farm town. Spent a lot of time growing up with my grandparents, who were both World War II vets and children of the Great Depression. That definitely influenced a lot of values and a lot of things that I would learn to have to overcome through my transition, bits of shame, bits that the incredibly conservative church that I went to, especially because of my age, it was, coming up in the church as a teen then meant that they were the Reagan, Bush the Elder years, where the evangelical church was sending a message through the government to the churches to tell everyone that their gay kids were going to the not good place. Let's put it that way. I'm intentionally trying to soften that, not for everybody listening, but kind of for myself, because don't need to go there trauma-wise. But, those things were hard. Those things were hard to overcome. There's a lot of those systemic things that are part of life in a small town like that, especially a small town like that in the 80s and the 90s. I would spend a lot of time with my father after he left when I was younger. He moved to one of the Minneapolis suburbs, and I would come and spend summers and weekends with him. And everybody that knew me in high school just kind of knew that I was going to move to Minneapolis. That was my thing. And I would ultimately figure out that it's somehow my little teenage egg brain knew that I was going to find acceptance in Minneapolis. I didn't know when I moved to the suburbs as an 18-year-old kid that it would be in the queer community in the city, but I would find it. Years of the 20s go by. I run a small business. I work for Chrysler. I do these very dude kind of jobs, very guy kind of industries. And the DJ job is that mixed with kind of the fact that I was so good at partying that I made it a career. Right. Now, kids, this is not to brag. This is not Lexi bragging. Stay in school. Don't do drugs.
Do drugs, DJ.
This is not Lexi bragging.
Do drugs, drink alcohol, DJ.
This is not what Lexi is saying. Yeah, well, that's check to see what's legal in your area, kids. No, I'm serious. Stay in school. Don't do drugs.
Yes.
But when you've got this thing that you don't understand, and you've got one of the things that I struggle with social media and struggle with talking about are my mental health struggles. The first thing is that I try to never come on and talk about them when I'm in the middle of the stuff, right? When it's really bad, I'm not online asking for help, because it's not a circumstance where online friends can usually. It stems from the fact that at a young age, about 3, I was in a nearly fatal accident, and my very first memory is waking up in an MRI machine, not knowing what's going on with the world. So it basically means that my first memory is PTSD. So that's always been this driving thing that made figuring out things like my gender identity that much more difficult, because especially now as we're starting to try to unlock what's neurodivergent and where exactly in the Venn diagram that kind of overlaps with, let's say, gender diversion, like we're going to learn that the overlap is going to be a little closer to, I don't know, instead of pepperonis on a pizza, it's definitely going to be more like pancakes.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the overlap's going to be really strong, but there's also a very similar overlap with a lot of trauma symptoms.
Yes.
As far as that's all concerned. So
this is a commonly asked for topic for Anna and I, and something I think we'd like to talk about at some point with some experts. Is I think we have found too that there certainly is a Venn diagram here that is really important for us to understand and point of support.
Looking for positivity within our community? Then listen to Queer We Are, the podcast where you hear some of the most interesting and successful LGBTQ plus people share uplifting stories, including their definition of success, how they achieved it, and what they learned along the way. Guests include celebrities, activists, politicians, athletes, and many more. Click the link in the show notes and check us out, or go to queerweare.com. If you've been looking for both fun and inspiration, now you know where to find us. Queer We Are.
Well, and Lexi, as a fellow queer trans woman, like I am also going through that. I have PTSD. I have talked about my mental health journey online. I'm trying to figure out what all is gender, what is PTSD, what is neurodivergency. I just went through psychological testing not that long ago. So, like it's all wrapped up in this one big ball. And for cis people, it's a lot easier because they don't have this whole other thing that's weighing over all of it with like oh, by the way, your gender's all kind of fucked up now. So good luck with that.
I could go on for a few hours just on what you just talked about. So few things. So bear with me here. First of all, I've had this thing where I absolutely despise making new trans friends for one reason. When we start to figure out what we've all got in common, it's like neurodivergent, PTSD, and it's like depression. It's like, can we start having fun things in common?
I play D&D. You play D&D? Please? You can do that.
Of course I do. I'm trans. Like, what do you want from me? I'm like, how? The more correct, I think the correct question to ask is like, what color pride dice you got? And it's like, mine are pink and white and blue, baby.
Oh yeah.
You know what? And I got a rainbow set too. I got a rainbow set. So that's the appropriate question.
God, that's very, very good.
Yep. No, so the other, and I'm kidding. I love making trans friends. It's like, because there's a part of me that I hate the fact that we can bond over those hard things, but bonding over those hard things makes me almost kind of feel like I'm doing the early stages of a friendship as like a speed run. You know what I mean? Because it's like, how do cis people become friends? Like, do they just start talking about sports and they figure that's good enough? I don't get it.
The wrong cis guy.
I need a trauma bond with someone. I need to go through some shit. We need to cry.
I literally did not know how to interact with my cis straight coworkers when I was trading for Mayo because all they wanted to do was go shopping and like look at baby things. And I'm like, I'm a 20-year-old queer trans woman. Where's the gay club in Rochester? Like,
I don't think there is one.
I don't think there is one either.
I know. Like, I think you got to go to the city. I think it's literally this. I think you've got to go all the way to Minneapolis. That's wild.
Hey, if anyone has a suggestion of a great queer club in Rochester or the surrounding area,
there's got to be one in like La Crosse or something.
Possibly, yeah.
Or somebody's barn. Well, I don't know if that's a club necessarily.
We host the gay barn dances on Sundays because all the straights are at church.
Oh, I love that kind of shit. Like, how have the gays not picked up square dancing?
Oh, they absolutely
because,
have.
like, I know... Because, okay, Anna, I need you to back me up on this. Like, old white women's square dance dresses and, like, cat girl uniforms, pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they
Pretty
are.
much the
Oh
same
yeah,
thing.
they are.
Yep. And you know, every little trans dude is gonna think he looks like $1 million in a pair of suspenders and a bolo.
100%.
He's not gonna.
Every one of them's gonna be like, I look like James
He's
Bond.
not gonna look like it. He's not gonna feel like it. He's gonna fucking look like it too. Like he's gonna.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how have we need? See, the thing is, we need to think it needs to be like a not square dance. You know what I mean? Like, not like a
Yeah,
square
it needs to
dance,
be
like,
like
a
a
square.
diagonal.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's the hypotenuse. I just wanted to say hypotenuse. That's all I want. I don't even think that's a thing. Parallelogram. I'm just saying shapes now.
No,
Yeah.
Lexi's geometry class.
But yeah, so as I was reading over the email that you'd sent, one of the parts that's always tough for me is like, what advice would you give people? And this is, I'm trying to put a little bow on what Anna had brought up, is that my advice, if I can give you, is that I'm not a scientist. We don't know all of the science behind this yet. I am a trans healthcare professional. I like to think I know what I'm talking about. And oh yeah, by the way, I'm trans. So like, I can check a few boxes. If you're trans and you think you might have ADHD or you might be neurodivergent, go get it checked because you do. And you are.
Yes, it is statistically proven that queer people, and especially trans queer people, have a much higher rate of neurodivergency. We're going to do a whole episode on this eventually, but yes.
Sure, and I think that like we're seeing the numbers are there to be like, yeah, it's higher, and that's certainly true. Yeah. We're gonna end. I feel like we're gonna learn that it's more like an ACT equivalence test. You know what I mean? With like the colons in the middle, it's like it is 1-to-1. And here's the thing: is that I have a few friends that I would call like my direct peers. They're like trans moms. They're like me. They're like 40. Nobody gives a shit about us anymore. So, but these are some gorgeous, absolutely brilliant women. They're incredibly articulate. They make friends. They're fantastic moms. They're just loving people. So you wouldn't think about them being neurodiverse. They're the last person you would think about, right? In all of the stereotypical ways. But they've all found at least an ADHD diagnosis in the last 2 or 3 years, myself included. And I think a big part of that is that puts us behind the trend of our cisgender counterparts by about a decade in being diagnosed as an adult. And I think it's because we learn how to mask even better than our cisgender neurodiverse counterparts, right? Because like I'm the queen of masking because I had to mask neurodiversion and my gender for 35 years. Right? Like I'm the best. Like I don't know why I haven't taken up acting. Because I did that every day for 30. Like it's Anthony Hopkins. Come on, man. You got like you act for like 4 hours a day, whatever. I had 24/7, 365 for 3.5 decades.
And the
true method acting.
I just flexed on Anthony Hopkins for some reason.
The funniest part about neurodivergency covering too, or masking, is you can often do it in front of yourself as well. So you're masking not only from everybody else, but also to yourself. And so like trans, you kind of feel it and it's a heavy weight. And you're like, oh, I think I might be trans. With neurodivergency, it's like, I just am strange. I don't know why. I just am, it's fine. And so it's so interesting.
It really is one of those things though, where I don't even think about it anymore as like, and I probably thought about it as I'm strange, right? As it relates to people that I interact with and my friends, but like, it's kind of come to the point where I just don't try to make like neurotypical friends anymore because I have a hard time. I get exhausted being around them, yet with my neurodiverse friends, it can be 5.5 hours later. We've talked about 2 real different things in that, but like also 300 different things. But it's 5.5 hours later and I notice no time has gone and I'm recharged, even though we've been just talking the whole time. So feel a lot less strange when you
find your community.
Yes, thank you, Anna. I couldn't have said it better.
So, Lexi, I'm just curious. You've mentioned that you started a small business. You've kind of, have all of this experience. Talk about that. Tell me about, like, what have you done? What in the community have you been doing to help the trans agenda, if you might?
In 2019, 2018, the pandemic has messed with my sense of time, and I know I'm not the only one.
Everybody.
But I accepted the position as the director of community engagement for a St. Paul-based trans health little nonprofit called Trans Chance Health that my friend Tanith is the president of. And it was just a bunch of us, kind of just grassroots. It had started because of, a friend not being able to get his insurance plan to pay for his pap smear because he's a trans guy, still has to have a pap smear every year. But the medical coding automatically kicked back the insurance claim for a pap smear for him just because there was a box that was checked. A very binary box that was checked that went male, pap smear, that's not right, kick it back. So after 9 times of having to interact with this insurance company, finally someone around the organization found someone else that had, and they both had business acumen, and they were able to say, listen, think of your overhead of what's going into this, having to have 9 different specialists kick this thing back for one, think of the man hours there. Person hours? Worker hours. Dang it.
Employment hours.
I can't believe that there's... No, so I took a position now. I work for Goodwill Easter Seals, and I'm an instructor for adult learners that have a barrier to employment. And everything, the very thread of the company's being ties into diversity and equity and inclusion. And I'm talking, they've been preaching these things since 1909, and I'm not over exaggerating. So part of that has been removing words from our vocabulary, because if we have high expectations of all of those things, we need to meet our own high expectations. So a word like man hours is something I've been trying to remove from my vocabulary at work. So that was a bit of an aside. Thanks for bearing with me. My first big interaction with the nonprofit was we got asked to lead a kind of Trans 101 and equity diversion, Lexi. Inclusion and diversity. Not diversion. Well, I mean, I would maybe, that's how I'm going to start referring to my gender identity. It's just a diversion. We're good. It's just a diversion. Oh my God. So it was a new charter school up in Bemidji, and it was the first year they were going into with 3 students that had already come out as non-binary. Like a K through 6 school. And I was like, what, you want me to drive up there and make sure the teachers know all of the things and the pronouns and all the stuff, so these little kids are going to be able to live their identities in an elementary school? Hot damn, sign me up.
I love that.
That was a lot, because we had to cover a ton of information, because a big part of it too was race and systemic racism, because up in Bemidji, of course, you get a high population of indigenous people. And unfortunately, then the systemic inequalities because of race become incredibly obvious. So it was something that we needed to really it was just as big a deal as the gender component for us. That's led to me doing online talks with local colleges. The peak for me is that we got asked, and I got to lecture I don't know, present however you want to. I got asked for my expertise to be delivered to a group of doctoral students at Columbia University.
Nice.
And when I realized at the end of that day that I'm like, yo, Mom, yeah, you know how it was like you always kind of seemed like you hated not being able to brag about me when I was younger? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, which one of your friends' kids got to talk to an Ivy League school today? Okay. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you not brag about that? Like, that's just like, that's a thing. I'm kind of, for a few weeks, I went around just introducing myself that way. I'm like, I'm Lexi. I got to teach at Columbia. People are like, what are you talking about? Who are you? I'm just waiting for the bus.
Break us off a piece of some of that. You know, what's your message to Columbia doctoral students or to kindergarteners? You know, I mean, what should we be taking away from those conversations you're having?
Well, the doctoral students were amazing because we weren't there specifically because a queer group had asked us to be there. Say, I went in. There's a local suburb-based health insurance dynamic company called Optum Health, and they'd asked us to come in and present, but it was to present to specifically like their queer employee group. But in that circumstance, it was great because my time in the medical device industry was just enough overlap for me to be able to like speak their language. And like ultimately we walked out of there and they had a platform for how they were going to just completely uproot and change how they were going to support their trans clients. And like, that was one of those things where I walked out and we did the math, and conservatively, if you take the like, and I'm using the conservative like 0.8-ish% of the population that trans people kind of account for here in the US, so pretty conservatively, it's like that day I got to change the way, because, you know, as trans people, our healthcare is so important because for so many of us, it is literally a like daily life or death thing.
Very
right?
much so.
So exactly. So I got to affect how that interacts with people's lives, and as just a conservative estimation, it was like 400,000 people. 400,000 people I'll never meet. They'll never know that it was Lexi that like was the reason that they got the little update and they're like, hey, we're going to cover this now or what have you. But the message there inherently with the students at Columbia was that they'd asked us to come in so that as they entered their own careers and their own practices in the world of what's normally known as women's medicine, right? How does that affect my trans masculine peers? That, you know, because a lot of these facilities, you know, are like you can't go to a general clinic for a pap smear. You go to a women's medicine center. Well, but then what does that do for me?
Yeah.
Right? Like if I hadn't been outed to the lady at the front desk at a giant facility, she sends me to the women's health center, and they don't know what to do with me. Quite well, nobody really ever does, but they don't know what to do with me.
Coming from the medical field and sort of knowing a little bit more terminology, I love the term just using OBGYN, which is obstetrics and gynecology. And that is, I think, the ideal. Yep. You know, like trans women, Lexi, you and I, like, we're going to have to get colonoscopies and prostate exams and things like that, you know, going into our later years of life. And I mean, trans men, of course, also have to get pap smears and things like that. And so calling things by their medical name, I have found, at least in my own, you know, sort of journey, has helped a lot more. Granted, that's not for everybody. And so a lot of really good places like Mayo asks you what you call your genitalia and things like that. And so it's like, do you call it a...
Steven.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. or like your tits.
But with a PH, like it's
right.
Steven.
It's
like with a PH, like a Steven.
It's very sophisticated.
Steven. Sorry, Anna. You were so you were talking brilliantly and articulate, and I'm over here like Steven. I'm sorry.
It's just now there are two of us. Anna's used to my bullshit, but now she gets some of yours too. So
one of us.
I love it. We're keeping all this in. All right. So
yeah, no, but you're definitely right. I mean, one of the big things that we preach constantly out of the nonprofit is the importance of digital records management in the healthcare world, because there's so much more opportunity for the information to be shared and accessed by the medical staff. Because when we talk about education as far as the healthcare world is concerned, and anything that a trans person needs to access for their physical transition, like, we are looking for the staff top to bottom to be competent about the trans population, and we need them to be compassionate as well, right? You need those two things. They need to be competent and they need to be compassionate. And right now, there isn't a single medical program in the United States that requires 1 minute of trans medicine.
No, none of them.
To get your doctorate. There's not one. And it needs to be everybody from the front desk staff to the maintenance guys. Like, everybody needs to be educated on this, and no one's getting educated
Throughout
on
my
this.
EMT training, I consistently brought up those points about, like, hey, what about trans people? Hey, trans people exist. Hey, by the way, I'm a trans person. Can we talk about trans people a little bit more? And all of the responses I got were, I want to know more, but I just don't know where to begin. And my instructors had no input or anything. It's just not talked about in medicine. And I worked with plenty of medical providers. I currently have plenty of medical providers, and legitimately,
it's like a school.
nobody knows how to talk about trans medicine except for trans people who know medicine, because it's so different. It's like how we described women in any time before the 18th century, basically. It'd be like,
diagnosing with hysteria.
Yeah, they're just basically different beings. They don't exist in this world,
They're having postpartum depression. It's like, she's got ghosts in her bones.
Yes. Where that baby came out, there's a hole, and now she's bleeding into it, and she's going to die of
my God.
Period sadness. God, I just it's so bad. And this is why we need more inclusivity in medicine, why we need more trans people, especially, to go into medicine and start advocating, why we need all people of minorities to go into medicine and start advocating. Like, I don't think I've ever met a gay doctor, and I really want to.
It's one of those things where, especially with the current trajectory of my career and how much it's just, already being involved with a nonprofit and, being an activist and advocating and doing all those things, my team at work now, it's just the inclusion is just so woven into, not just what we talk about and what we do. It seems like all of my colleagues are constantly, like, they're all mom friends is part of what I've realized. They want to make sure, like, these are all a group of people, like, a lot of them women, that they're just looking for, like, who needs to get taken care of, who needs a snack, who needs a water, orange slices, who needs them, like these are, like, we're tracking down people to put them into the program so we can help them get work and set their, like it's the thing. But as you start to take somebody like that, it's just such a big deal for me. And as you're talking about, the inclusion as an EMT, there's a couple, first of all, unfortunately, there is a huge racial inequality when you look at EMT response and
yes.
EMT world. And Anna, don't, like, I'm sure you know this. This is nothing against you. The world of like EMT work and the way that sometimes it's it's a weird, the whole industry.
That's going to be a whole series on my YouTube channel, I'm sure, at some point. It's just talking about how bad the EMS system is.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so, I mean, there are a couple of cities where it doesn't seem to be too bad. Like in a big city structure. I think Chicago tends to, I hear Chicago's, but it's owned by the city.
Yep.
That like it's part of the hospital, like it's part of their framework, whatever. But the problem that you get with EMTs not having trans medicine training is that
it's terrifying.
The trans broken leg syndrome is grown exponentially. So like that's the broken leg syndrome is when you go into a doctor and you're like, my leg's broken, and he's like, well, it's because you're trans. Have a nice day.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like,
right.
Dude, the fact that I took some hormones so my boobs would grow and I got all pretty has nothing to do with the fact my fibula is broken. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the same with mental health as well. And it's very much a bad system that we need to be educating everybody, like you said, from the ground up. Maintenance staff, front desk workers. Like I've worked in all of those positions before, and you know,
sure,
you do interact a lot.
Definitely, and you like, especially with the EMTs, they get confused right off the bat. They jump to conclusions with like the broken leg syndrome, and if that person's unconscious, then they get to the ER, and the ER staff freaks out again over the trans broken leg syndrome, and then it's what I mean. It's like it just keeps getting exponentially worse, and so yeah. Anyway,
those were some very good points and topics that we brought up, Lexi.
In our phenomenal guest list, that's for sure.
Yes.
I
just have to say to all of our neurodivergent listeners, this episode is going to be right up your alley, and to all of our neurotypical listeners, I'm sorry.
I know, but I love, like, you're definitely gonna use that as like the tagline for this episode, though, right? You're like, hey, all you neurodivergent weirdos, you're gonna love Lexi. What are you trying to say here?
Oh, Lexi, you're wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us the time today.
Oh, thank
you.
Really
appreciate it.
Thank you, Lexi.
Yeah, you bet.
If you have questions about transitioning or supporting someone who is transitioning and you'd like us to talk about it on the show, please shoot us an email at questions@transgendapod.com, click the chat with us button on our website, or send us a message on social media.
Be sure to check out our episode description for links to resources on today's topics. And to all of my neurodivergent people, just keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on. And thanks for listening. I've been Cam.
I've been Anna.
And this has been The Transgenda.
Love you all, except the bigots.
Would you like to support our podcast? Well, you're in luck. We have a Patreon now. Just visit patreon.com/transgendapod, and for as little as $3 a month, you can support the content that we're creating. And for $20 a month, you can join our Sticker Club, which provides you with a monthly live stream, a shout out on the podcast, and a sticker every month from ourselves and creators that we adore. Again, just visit patreon.com/transgendapod, and thank you for all your support.